Hi, I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle now with Bill's hot takes on breaking news and current events. Bill, this one may come as a surprise to you, but
They all
according
come as a
to
surprise to me.
every one of these comes as a surprise to you. That's the whole shtick here. But according to Bloomberg, is reporting that an internal Republican National Committee poll shows that by a 2-to-1 margin, Republicans are having a hard time selling voters on the idea of tax cuts. Apparently, by a margin of 61% to 30%, respondents to their poll said that the tax cut law benefits large corporations and rich Americans over middle class families. And here's the thrust of allegedly of voters' concerns. It's that they think that if Republicans are cutting taxes now, therefore they will have to cut Social Security and Medicare. And so the tax cuts ultimately are only going to benefit big fat cat corporations and the wealthy to the detriment of people who are on Social Security and Medicare. And this, the study, by the way, attributes this situation to, quote, a fairly disciplined Democrat attack against the recent tax cuts. Bill Whittle, you know more than anybody does about positioning and how to get a message across. How is it possible that the Republicans have been unable to sell candy to children, in essence?
You said those numbers were from Republicans?
It's allegedly an internal RNC poll. Yes, reported by Bloomberg.
It's an RNC poll of all Americans or of just Republicans?
It's Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. Republicans, of course, think that the tax cuts are much better than Democrats do, but it's the independents.
Okay.
It's the independents
Okay.
that are really throwing the thing for because the independents don't believe that
Got
it's
it.
anything but a benefit for the fat cats.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to back up on the question like that. It's just I was about to break down into tears. I thought for a minute that it was likely Republican voters, against a tax cut 60%. Well, Scotty, there's people who have to run businesses. There's people who shop at businesses, and then there are people who get paid from the people that run businesses. And we call this groups Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. And we have never ever been able to do the most simple things in terms of messaging. And it's exactly right. It's exactly what you said. It's like selling candy to children. One of the problems that I personally experienced with the Trump tax cuts is that, and I'm no accountant and I don't even play one on the internet, but my understanding was that a lot of very, very small corporations like ours, LLCs, didn't get to benefit from the tax cut. We have other content coming in that maybe qualifies us for it. I think it should have gone especially to small business owners, but I don't think that's really the issue.
No.
I think the issue is the messaging that's gone out there. And it's not just that they've targeted tax cuts. The left has demonized wealth and wealth creation since Marx. I mean, that's what they do. That's their entire gambit. That's how it works. You basically have a group of very, very ambitious, power-hungry people who are not smart enough or not hardworking enough to go make their own money. And so basically, this small group of people manages to get a great deal of money and a great deal of power by convincing most people that a few people are rich and don't deserve to be. And that's basically the scam. And when I said it goes back to Marx, it goes back beyond that. It goes back certainly to the Romans and probably before then. So you're talking about selling candy to children in terms of you should be able to sell tax cuts to people. There should be more money for you, candy for children. But I think the world we live in now, Scott, is that that's candy for the percentage of people that are working. And if the statistics we've heard for many years now that more than 50% of the population gets some kind of government entitlement payout.
Are you talking about
really,
the Mitt Romney's 47%?
Well, no. I mean, it's like half. It's like half of all Americans get some kind of money from the government. And so the question becomes, what is the candy? I really think that's it. If you're a producer, if you're somebody who produces something, the candy is lower taxes because I'm doing all this work, I'm producing a product, people are buying it, and then the government's taking half of what I make. But for more and more Americans, the candy isn't a reduction in the cost of doing things because this whole country used to do things. Now, a tax cut is a reduction in the cost of half of the country doing things when the other half of the country sees a tax cut as a means of basically shutting down the cow that's given all the free milk.
Well, and in fairness, Bill, those people will say, listen, I paid into Social Security, I paid into Medicare, and in fairness to these people, Republicans are often making noises about the fact that it's the entitlement programs that are really the big mother lode when it comes to reducing the size and scope of government. And so when you hear Republicans talking like that and saying, why don't we privatize Social Security? Why don't we get government out of the business of healthcare, so to speak, not only just opposing Obamacare, but other elements of government involvement in medical care. They hear that, and then they hear, oh, the corporate tax rate gets cut from 35% down to 21%. So who's that going to benefit? Do you think my boss is going to pay me more?
No, I would say to that person, no, your boss is not going to pay you more. Your benefit is your boss continues to pay you. That's your benefit. Your benefit is you continue to get paid. And most companies offer some form of health care, so you continue to get that too. Because while they can talk about, well, they cut the taxes for the rich from 20 to 35% to 20%, okay, and now the economy's growing at 4% per year instead of 1% per year. So it is a question of messaging. It's a question of the left once again selectively pulling elements of truth, aligning them in a way that makes it look, like reason, but it's just pretty much the antithesis of truth. So what the Republicans have to do and seem to be incapable of doing is to say, listen, that tax cut to the businesses is what made our GDP go from 1% per year to 4% per year. That tax cut is why black unemployment is at a historic low in America. That tax cut is why you have a job now when you didn't before. That tax cut is why you may be getting promotions, why we may be expanding, we may be buying new trucks, new restaurants, whatever, because of that tax cut. It didn't go to people's pockets. It's not like the rich just said, oh, great, here's more money for us. Nobody understands how businesses work unless you run a business. A business survives on a 3% margin, 4% margin. We buy a bunch of clothes, we sell a bunch of clothes. And if we make a little more selling them than we do making them, then we get to stay around for another month and try again. But when the taxes come out of what's sold, a 5% tax cut, a 10% tax cut is the difference between life and death for, well, just to take a pot shot at the economy for 3 out of 4 businesses out there. So it's not that the people, I can't really blame the American people for this. And while I'm sure they'll all have plenty of time to talk about it in hell, I can't talk about the progressives being at fault here either, because that's what they do. That's their job, is to convince people that other people are better off than them because they got a break from the government, or the wealth fairy came and tapped them on the forehead while they were sleeping. That's what the progressives do. That's their job. The American people don't hear anything from our side, largely because the Democrats control so much of the media, but mostly, as you say, because we cannot show people how to count to 4 on one hand. It's really pretty simple. We did this last week. This used to be how much money we were making and how much we were growing. This is how much we're growing now. Actually, it's this much, probably pretty close to this. And that's because of the tax cut. And the tax cut benefits everybody. If somebody would explain the Laffer curve to the American people in a way that they can understand it in 20 seconds, and I can do that, by the way, then if that message gets out to the American people, then this whole progressive tax scam is over. And it is a scam, by the way, Scott. And the moment you could tell it was an actual Ponzi scheme, as opposed to just a bad decision, was Social Security. As we all know, Social Security was sold this way. We're going to take a percentage of your paycheck now, and we're going to hold on to it because we're the government and we can be trusted. And we're going to hold on to your money for you. And then when you are ready to retire, we will give you your money back. This is because we don't trust you to save your own money, so we're going to save it for you. Don't worry, everything's under control. Fantastic. So that Social Security money goes into the Social Security Trust Fund. And that hunk of money gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And these politicians are looking at this giant pile of cash and they're going to, think of all the votes that I could buy if I could just hand out some of that cash to people. I could be in this seat for as long as Nancy Pelosi, for God's sakes, if I can just get a hold of some of that cash so I can buy some more votes. And so they did. So they went into the Social Security Trust Fund and they started taking out your money that you put in there for your retirement. They took the money out and they put an IOU in. And now they're starting to have heart palpitations because it's time for people to get their money out, and there is no money there to get out. It's been gone for a long time. And if the magnitude of this theft ever becomes apparent to the American people, there are going to be billion-man marches on Washington. We're going to hire people from other countries to come in and help us with the pitchforks and the torches and the dogs to find out what happened to the trillions of dollars that these people of both parties have stolen from us.
If you like what you're hearing here on Bill Whittle Now, click that little notification button on YouTube to make sure you don't miss a single episode. And why don't you come over and join us at BillWhittle.com, where you can become a member for just $9.95 a month and become a citizen producer of this kind of content and enjoy far more of it yourself. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making this possible.